Welcome back to the Super Not Funny Show Reviews. And today I'm reviewing Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 2. It's entitled Ad Astra per Aspera. It's coming to you from Paramount Plus. So, what did I think about it, and should you be watching? Before we get into the review, get down there, hit like on this video. In an episode that could easily be called Law and Order Federation, we get one of the famed Star Trek courtroom dramas, presented probably the best way I think I've ever seen, in the limited number of Star Trek things I've seen, but in the court scenes that I've seen, that really kind of gets to the heart of some of the issues that not only have been gone over before, and some, Measure of Man is probably the next closest one to this, but also speaks allegorically to a lot of stuff that we have, going on nowadays. This is, really Star Trek kind of doing its best to grapple with our issues of, it's not just immigrants and, nationality and religion and all that stuff, but also racism, because that's pretty much what this is all about. This episode is about, number one, Una, Chin Riley, the commander, the second in command of the Enterprise, who was taken into custody at the end of the last season and charged for basically lying about being an Illyrian. And Illyrians, as we learned, are, people who genetically alter themselves. And because of the eugenics wars, that's pretty much, no one, it's legalized discrimination essentially in Starfleet against people who are from, genetically modified, people. So this episode really, it could just be any other run of the mill. Let's righteously, defend the commander, but it does something even better than that. It brings in a somewhat adversarial civil rights lawyer, one of the best in that galaxy, by the name of Neera, who is adversarial not to the to the Federation, but really adversarial to Una because of a shared history. She also is an Illyrian and has been spending her career, as an excellent lawyer, going against the Federation and its discrimination, its blatant discrimination against Illyrians in particular. And this prompts, Captain Pike to go in the previous episode to go find her and convince her to come to Una's aid, knowing that they were friends, but not knowing that there was a strained, past between them. And they explain later exactly why. And so what we then get is, an investigation, essentially. The JAG, the Judge Advocate General for the Federation, prosecuting, wanting to basically sweep this under the rug to kind of let her off, dishonorable discharge and whatever, no prison time. But Una wanting to stop hiding and to step out of the shadows and to actually, force this issue so that Starfleet will have to change its ways because she believed in Starfleet and it being better. And I think that's kind of an operative and important aspect of this show and of Starfleet and the people in general. I've often kind of criticized Star Trek in general. Not that I don't love the show, but it very much is about, and I've heard people say it's about the elite doing, amazing things. And I agree with that. The problem with that is that not all of the Federation, not all the people in the Federation are the best of the best of the best. And so it's kind of weird to me that we're often, judging the Federation and how good or bad it is based on a small percentage. Admittedly, the Starfleet doesn't accept everybody, and people who get in aren't nobodies. And so I've always kind of been critical of the fact that we don't actually know the, kind of the downside of the Federation or where the Federation falls short. And I like that, in Discovery, but also in Strange New Worlds, we see the shortcomings of the Federation that even trying to do its best still harbors, prejudice that does affect the lives of people. And so Una trying to bring this together, bring this to a head, to make a case to set precedent, was very important, because that's how the scales of justice are sort of tipped, is on people who are willing to put their own personal welfare at in peril in order to kind of make other people's lives better. And I also think that speaks to the fact that Una is just a great commanding officer and an asset to Starfleet. But throughout this episode, it's not just about the courtroom drama. There are other things going on, such as La'an feeling, probably responsible. She feels maybe for whoever someone exposed, number one to this legal issue, and she thinks it's her, and she wants to get to the bottom of it. And there's a great little scene between her and Uhura, who's now an ensign, of course, where she orders her to do something illegal, and Uhura stands up and says no. And I think that this is indicative not just of the fact that Uhura is an excellent, junior officer, but also that Starfleet kind of engenders and encourages and even recruits people who have they have the ability to say no to when they know something's wrong. And I really enjoyed that aspect of that little bit of Uhura. There's not much else of her in this episode, but that was a great moment for her. And also getting to know La'an more, because this case hits close to home for her, because as she acknowledges, she is in fact carrying the genetic, markers that her ancestor, Khan Noonien Singh, who of course will come up later on in the series, she carries that, and this means something to her as well. Captain Pike, he has sort of an investment in this, not just because number one is his friend and he intentionally hid, this revelation for her, but also because, his girlfriend, or I guess his significant other, she is the lawyer who, on behalf of Starfleet, Captain Batel, she is, prosecuting this, with the direction of her direct superior, who is over the JAG for the Federation. It's very hard on them, their relationship, but to be able to see, him decide not to be not to grandstand, to take the stand and make it about him. And then, we got a little bit, we get a little bit of, Ortegas and Dr. Mbanga and Spock. They're in there a little bit. It's nice little character building for them. But this really is just about this case, and in that case, we have to give it up. Like, for this episode, Yetide Badaki was magnificent. There's no way around it. As Neera Ketoul, I think I'm saying that right. Absolutely astounding. She's been on my radar a bit anyway, but to see her just turn in a powerful performance as a woman who is trying to not just be a crusader for the rights of people and for the Illyrian people, and to trying to fight the good fight, but having a personal stake, a personal kind of grudge of sorts with Una that is, it's based in the fact that Una and her family had passing privileges, essentially, to pretend like they weren't Illyrians with genetic modifications. Whereas she, Neera and her, I guess her people chose not to pass and, suffered as a result. And it kind of has driven her career and her life. And to see her understand that and be angry and but still take on the case, but over the course of kind of gathering information to make this case, softens up to and finds a way to actually get Una exonerated. And to see it all play out is not just on character references and everything, which are nice and important and everything like that, but actually to kind of expose the fact that law is whatever captains say it is, and that there's some leeway, and sometimes captains get to do whatever just because. And we see that play out later on in the other Star Trek series, that in fact the Prime Directive isn't absolute, that all these rules aren't absolute. And so what's the problem in this situation? Why are why is the shadow of the eugenics war so long to keep someone of number one's caliber and capacity out of Starfleet, or to have to lie to get into Starfleet, and to even maybe ruin or strain or ruin a very strong relationship she had with Admiral April, who sponsor her getting into the academy. It's all very important, but what's most important is the way that Neera builds the case for why Una should not be, she should not be found guilty, of sedition and such things. And it really does come down to the fact that, again, as a Starfleet officer, number one is just, exemplary and does all the right things. She turns herself in. To bring this all to a head. She unknowingly does everything she needs to do to legally, seek refuge within the Federation. Her whole life is essentially about, trying to escape persecution. And then she goes into Starfleet and asks for help and such things. And a good bit of lawyering gets her off on a technicality. But that's not what is important as, the fact that when, hearing Una's story about, how bad it was for genetically modified Illyrians and what it was like to kind of live under the specter that maybe she could be found out one day. And, to see Neera, hearing and understanding what was going on and really seeing that it's softened her heart on it was very, very fun and very cool and very, moving. But even more importantly, to find out that she did her homework and was absolutely ready to win that case. So much so that, Captain Batel pretty much was on her side, not just because she liked number one or anything in Captain Pike, but that she understood that this was the way out so that everyone could sort of win. And, the way she delivered her lines and her speech, just very, very powerful. I mean, I don't think it's an understatement to say that she could. I mean, I think she should get an Emmy nomination just on the fact that as a guest star was just absolutely just riveting within the context of this episode. And, this episode wouldn't have hit nearly as hard without just an outstanding performance there. And so at the end of the day, I'll say without any kind of like hyperbole, this could be one of the best episodes of Star Trek that's ever been made. And I'm saying yes, no, I've not seen every single episode of Star Trek. So, don't get on my case about it. But I loved Measure of a Man. I thought it was one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek ever. And this is right up there. It did all of the things that Star Trek does well. And you could, I think it did probably better than Star Trek in the sense of, people often talk about, oh, this hits you, beats you over the head with politics or, keep politics out. Whatever. Star Trek is always political. But this did just enough of the allegory to not be, I suppose, for those sorts of people to be too, in your face about it. But then on the other hand, it was straight up about what it was talking about. Now, I mean, she mentions race and ethnicity and all that sort of thing. This is pretty explicit. If you miss the political messaging in here, you are being willfully obtuse. You're doing it on purpose, because it's pretty clear what they're talking about and what it applies to and who it applies to. And that, this really is about the soul of Starfleet. And can they allow this sort of, egregious prejudice to continue to guide, their principles? Because if they are, then they're going to have someone like Neera Ketoul who is going to just stay on their ass about it until they get right. And I, for one, am happy that such a character exists. I cannot wait for them to put her back into this show, because, I mean, anytime that they can bring her back would just make this show like so much better. This is a top tier episode. And I really, really loved it. And if this is an example of what we're going to get going forward, season 2 of Strange New Worlds is going to be off the charts. So anyway, those are my thoughts on this episode. What did you guys think about it? And what did you think about what I had to say? Get down to the comment section, leave your thoughts there. And of course, you can always hit me up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. And do me a favor, get down there, hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. Helps with the algorithm so that more people see these videos, and it helps to grow the channel. All right, thanks for joining me. Come back next week. We're going to be talking about episode 3 of Strange New World season 2. Until then, I have been Mo, your comment extraordinaire on all things pop culture, and I'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.